Getting a great flight deal feels kind of like winning the lottery. The problem is your chances of winning the lottery are about 1 in 300 million. But after watching this video, your chances of finding cheap flights for your next trip will be right around 100%. There are 5 essential flight hacks that you have to know about to get the best flight deals. So click that subscribe button, put your tray table up, and let's reveal these 5 secret flight hacks that every traveler should know about. I mean, the second hack that we'll go over has saved me hundreds of dollars on multiple occasions. And knowing the last hack we'll go over is the reason I've been able to get more than 10 hours in business class for $53, despite the exact same seats being sold everywhere else for over $3,000. So let's start with the most simple hack and then we'll go on from there. I like to think of this first hack as the timing hack because it enables you to book your flights at the very perfect time with almost no effort at all. It's common knowledge that starting your travel planning earlier can mean you'll have access to better deals. But that doesn't necessarily mean you should just book flights right when you start planning a trip. You might find some people talking about international flights being cheapest around 6 months before travel, domestic flights being cheapest around 2 or 3 months before travel, or maybe even claiming that Tuesdays are the best day to book flights. This isn't helpful to you at all as a savvy traveler looking to book the best flight deal. Instead of all that, I have an easy and completely free hack to help you know exactly when the best time to book your flight is. Just in the past few months using this hack, I was able to book an Etihad flight from Rome to Abu Dhabi for just 128 euros. Plus, I got some peak season flights in KLM's new premium economy class for just $96 about a month before travel. If I had booked either of these flights further in advance, I would have actually paid more for them. And all I had to do to get both of these deals was monitor flight prices on Google Flights. No matter if you're looking for a flight 6 months or 6 days before your trip, Google Flights will show you if it's the best time to book or not. Just search for the flights you want, and if they're not in that green section, then it's probably not time to book. And if it's not the right time to book, then all you have to do is set some price alerts. And I really just love this hack because the whole process never takes more than a few minutes. So by all means, definitely start planning your trip early if you can. It will definitely help you with other stuff like finding the best hotel deals and getting visas. But regardless of if you're 1 week or 8 months away from your trip, there's another essential flight hack that nobody talks about. Yet I use this hack all the time to save money, and sometimes it's even helped me find flights I just wouldn't have known exist otherwise. I often turn to this hack when I need flights for specific dates to a specific place and I just can't seem to find a good deal. But it's definitely worth adding to your list of what to try out when searching for any cheap flights. Now you might assume that an airline ticket for the same seat on the same plane is going to cost the same price no matter where you book it from. But that's not the case at all. What tickets and prices are available to you can depend a whole lot on the country that the airline website believes you are booking your tickets from. The country that you book your tickets from is often referred to as the point of sale, or POS for short. Having the ability to change the country that you're searching from, so the POS, can give you access to 2 different things. First off, there's the flights you just wouldn't find otherwise. And this is simply because there might be more seats open for one POS than another. But the second one is that there's the potential to find the exact flights you want for a cheaper price. That's right, sometimes just using a different POS will give you a different fare. Most often, I've found that this works when you change your POS to your departure or your arrival country. But there have been cases where changing your POS to a third country can also find you cheaper flights. Now there are a few things to keep in mind when you're looking at flights from a POS that's different than your home country. Sometimes certain fares can require you to be a resident of a certain place. But these are usually domestic routes where a government is subsidizing airfare for locals that depend on air travel heavily. Some examples of this are discounted ticket prices for residents of the Canary Islands when they want to fly to mainland Spain. Or in Ecuador, where residents receive discounted fares to get to hard-to-reach places such as the Galapagos Islands. Though these cases are far and few between, and most airline websites are pretty clear about who can book them, you always want to check the rules of any airline ticket you're booking. I mean, just last fall, I flew a combination of British Airways and American Airlines from Europe to the US for about 400 euros round trip. I had started my search in US dollars and was seeing prices for the flights I wanted coming out to more than $600 when booked via the American Airlines website. But I simply changed my POS to the German website and was able to get about $200 off. Another common one is for flights between the US and Canada. Often, either the Canadian or American website will be significantly more expensive than the other. So before I book flights, I always take a look at if changing the POS will save me any money. And the way I prefer to change the POS is using a VPN. Best practice for this is to simply open up an incognito window in Google Chrome or a private browsing window in Safari. From there, you'll need to have a VPN set to the country that you want the airline's website to think you're searching from. But not all VPNs were created equally, not by a long shot, and that brings us to today's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark VPN has been my preferred choice of VPN for years now, and they've helped me save thousands of dollars on airfare just by using the technique we went over. And having Surfshark VPN hasn't just saved me tons of money on airfare either. There are plenty of websites that won't even allow you to access them without an IP address from a certain country. And that's not to mention you can do cool stuff like watch American Netflix while sitting out a long layover in Thailand. It's all as easy as changing your IP address with one click. So if you don't yet have Surfshark, they're offering an amazing deal of 86% off plus 3 months free on their VPN, and you can get that deal just by clicking the link in the description. I couldn't think of a better way to combine supporting my channel with purchasing a super useful product. And on top of that, if you're not completely satisfied, you can always get your money back for 30 days after purchasing. But honestly, you're gonna be satisfied if you use Surfshark the way I do. So if you don't yet have a Surfshark subscription, head down to my link in the description to purchase one. And it's not just this hack that I use a VPN for. Pretty much everything I do in terms of searching for and booking flights, I do with Surfshark VPN turned on. Without a VPN turned on, you're revealing your IP address to websites that you probably don't want to be giving it to. And I, for one, am not a fan of sacrificing my digital freedoms, especially considering how affordable and easy it is not to. But now that we've addressed the importance of VPNs, we do have some more flight hacks to go over. And make sure to stay tuned for number 5 because that hack will save you ridiculous amounts of money that no other hack will. But for number 5 to work, we're going to have to look at hacks number 3 and 4 first. And I like to think of hack number 3 as the look and book hack. Basically, the ideal place to book your flights is directly with the airline. Other sites might be selling flights for say $5 or $10 less. But when it comes to dealing with your flights, the hassle that can come up when there's a cancellation, delay, or even just getting a ticket is definitely not worth $5 or $10 in savings. If we're talking about a $100 difference, then that might be a different story. But the truth is that flights are actually often the cheapest when you book them directly through the airline anyway. The thing is, airlines don't usually have awesome search engines. And on top of that, you just can't search for every airline on a single airline's website. So before you book on an airline's website, you've got to look on another website to know which airline to even book with. When it comes to looking for the flights you want, Google Flights is currently the best go-to tool for a quick and easy search. There is ITA Matrix, which does a little bit more heavy lifting than Google Flights. But for the average traveler without many hours to spare, Google Flights is the gold standard. Say you want to fly from New York City to the new Tulum airport. Once you're in Google Flights, you just put in the filters you want. Let's say for this trip you need non-stop flights, so that narrows down your options to United and JetBlue. And it turns out United is cheaper, so now you just head over to the United website or app and book. Money and time saved. But there is another hack to searching for flights that will really up your game. The thing is, when booking flights, most people sit down and search for round-trip flights. In British English, folks might like to call these return flights. Cheers. But I almost never book round-trip flights, and that's simply because there's almost always a cheaper option if you use what I like to call the 2-for-1 hack. Say you've got a week-long trip to Europe planned and London is calling. With a quick Google flight search, you can see that the flights you want are $589 round trip. You can definitely just book those round-trip flights to London. The airline will be happy to take your money. But why not visit an extra city or even an extra country if you're going to be flying all the way over the Atlantic and back? It could actually turn out to be cheaper to do so too. Let's say you've always wanted to see Paris. You could really pick anywhere in Europe, but since Paris is just a short train ride away, let's use it as an example. So just change your search to multi-city and replace London with Paris for the return. And that drops the price by $82. So you could even book your train tickets between London and Paris and still be paying less than if you'd only booked your flights to London. So flying from Boston to London and back to Boston from Paris is a perfect example of how you can save using the 2-for-1 hack. And by the way, another way to refer to this kind of multi-city itinerary is open-jaw flights. More specifically, these would be called destination open-jaw flights because only the destination changes. If you flew Boston to London, didn't go to Paris but flew from London back to Los Angeles, then that would be what's considered origin open-jaw flights. And if you flew from Boston to London and then did take the train over to Paris and fly back to Los Angeles, those would be double open-jaw flights. I always look at these kinds of possibilities to see more in one trip and save money in the process. In fact, in hack number 2, we already looked at some flights I took from Europe to Washington, D.C. and back to Europe from Miami. Those are definitely another example of how to use this 2-for-1 hack. But what if you could turn the 2-for-1 hack into a 3, 4 or even 5 for 1 hack. There is another cheap flight hack that just has to be mentioned here, and it's kind of a crazy one. With this hack, you can book flights that cost over $3,000 for just around $50, yet nobody ever talks about it. I'd guess that's because it can seem complex or confusing if it's not explained clearly, but I'm here to give it to you clearly. It all has to do with something known as the United Airlines Excursionist Perk. Essentially, United offers customers the ability to book flights that start and end in the same region of the world with a free flight or flights in between the outgoing and returning flights. But an important thing to note is although you will have to book via United, you won't necessarily have to actually fly on United to use this hack. There are dozens of other airlines that it will work on. Let's break that down and think of the outgoing flights as segment A. And then the free flight or flights in the middle of your trip are segment B. And then the flights that end in the region that you started your trip in are segment C. So let's start by thinking back to those open jaw flights that we were just looking at. You can also use the same idea here. The outgoing flights would be segment A and the returning flights would be segment C. And then segment B is that nice little gift that United Airlines allows you to stuff into the middle. But the most important thing to remember is that the requirement to get segment B for free is that you need to start segment A in the same region that you end segment C. But starting and ending in the same region does not mean that you have to start and end in the same city, same airport, or even the same country. If you want to check what United defines as their regions, they list it out on their website. You can choose any region, but for simplicity's sake, let's say we want to depart from and arrive to the mainland US, which is in North America. So our flights will start and end in the US, that much is clear. But for segment B, that can be absolutely anywhere else in the entire world, as long as it's all within one region. Just keep in mind that that region cannot be the same one that segment A starts in and segment C ends in. So in this case, North America. To book segment B almost for free, you have to book with United Miles. Now, if you're not that used to using miles, don't know that much about miles, or don't even currently have any miles, don't worry. This hack can be useful for absolutely everybody, so stay with me. To search for flights using the Excursionist Perk, just head to the United Airlines website. From there, you need to select Advanced Search and then use the Multi-City tab. Say Flight A is a flight from New York City to Florida. Let's put that in the Destination 1 area. And then Flight C is a flight from New York City to Chicago around 6 months later, so let's put that into the Destination 3 area. To be clear, those are 2 separate trips that you already know you'll be taking. So you're just booking the flights to get you there all on one ticket, and to get back from Florida and Chicago, you'll be booking separate tickets. Where this all gets interesting is with Flight B. Let's say you've got a trip to Africa planned and you know you'll be visiting the Seychelles and South Africa in the same trip. But you'll need to get from the Seychelles to Cape Town since they're over 3,000 miles away from each other. But since the Seychelles and South Africa are in the same United region, you can book a flight on Ethiopian Airlines between the two for 0 miles. Just make sure that you've selected the show the price in miles and search. On these Ethiopian Airlines flights that we're looking at, you just have to pay the taxes and fees of $53. If you book those same exact flights separately in economy class, they'd cost you $436. And on top of that, flights booked with United Miles can be changed and canceled for free, meaning that there's a lot of flexibility if you change your plans after booking. But that's not even the extent to which you can save money with this hack. It gets a lot more interesting. You can do the exact same thing but with business class, so let's give it a try on the same routes. But this time the first flight or segment must be flown in business or first class. And bam! The second flight or segment B in business class is still just $53. And then for the third flight or segment C, you can just choose the cheapest fare. It doesn't have to be in business or first class. So altogether, you could book all of these flights plus everything except the last segment in business class for just 39,700 miles plus about $64. If you were to just book those Ethiopian Airlines flights in business class on their own, they would cost you $3,178. Plus, if you add in the value of the United first class flights to Florida, they'd cost you $359, and that's even cheaper than normal according to the data Google Flights has. And then, if you counted in the cost of those flights to Chicago about 6 months later, you'd have at least an additional $85 to take into account, and that's just for basic economy. The flights booked with miles would actually be in regular economy. So all that together would be $3,622. And that is infinitely more than 39,700 miles and $64. But remember how you can still use this hack even if you don't have any miles? Well, if you don't have those miles sitting around and you don't want to open up a credit card or fly to earn them, you could just buy them. United sells miles in increments of $1,000 for $35 plus taxes and fees. That would mean that the regular price for 40,000 miles is $1,400 plus taxes and fees. And that would be a good deal since it's already just 1/3 of the cash price for these flights. But the thing is, United frequently has sales on their miles for 30% off or even more sometimes. So if you wait for a sale, you could probably get those 40,000 miles for even less than $1,000. I personally would not buy miles like that, just because between credit cards and flying a lot, I already am able to earn the miles I need. But for a deal like that, if you're, say, not in a country with good credit card offers, and you just won't be flying that much to earn miles, then paying $1,000 for flights that usually cost almost $4,000 is a pretty amazing deal. So instead of hoping to be that 1 in 300 million that wins the lottery to pay for your next trip, you've now got 5 tangible hacks to book yourself a flight deal that you might not know about otherwise. And whether it's saving a few hundred or a few $1,000s, let us know what deals you find in the comments. And for many more travel videos about everything from luxury hotels to what it's really like on board different airlines, subscribe to my channel and join me on my journey around the world. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see y'all real soon.